Oi! It's Tuesday night. Do you guys know what that means? It's after the Contender Series. It's after the Pub Sports Radio, DraftKings show that we do every Tuesday. That means it's time for Just the Tip, you guys. It's time for the UFC Vegas 36 full card breakdown. Late night, Tuesday evening, when everybody's feeling sensual, when everybody's feeling ready to not just go balls deep into one fight, but to go just the tip into 10 different fights, culminating in finding out who Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is going to be. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. Let me see something here. I'm going to try to find something out here and find out if my guy Smooth, yeah, oh my God, yeah. Dude, my guy Smooth Jimmy appears to be completely ready to go just the tip into this entire card. I'm ready. Dude, what's up with you guys in here? Dude, it looks like my guy Palama Lou Diamond Phillips is ready. Shout out Lulu, best cat ever. Shout out Palama Lou Diamond Phillips saying all the holes have been begging for just the tip all week. Let's fucking go, Weezy. Let's fucking go, Lou Diamond Phillips. Let's go just the tip into 10 different fights tonight. We got my guy Big Brady in the room saying let's make some money. We got to get it back from last week. And then we start off by getting it back one bet at a time, one read at a time, one set of statistics at a time, and one fight at a time. And it starts tonight, you guys. And we got my guy Chris for the Love MMA in the room, up with just the tip late at night. Chris, thanks for hanging out. We got Brady in the house. We got Palama and Chris in the house. Dude, it is great to see everybody in the room hanging out, ready to go into these fights. Let's see. Palama says he's busy putting his smoking jacket on. He's the classiest dame I know. Hey, man, if you guys are going to hang out with me this late on a Tuesday night, it's the least I could do to put on the finery for you guys and go just the tip into all these UFC Vegas 36 fights. A lot of decent angles here, you guys. I don't know about the money line bets this week, but there are some props that are jumping out at me, and we're going to get into all of them because we got 10 fights to go into, so we can go the tip doesn't have to be just in this far. Maybe we could get it in just a little bit further than normal when we would be going and say 14 fights in a card, you know? Chris saying, laughing my ass off. I was going to say he's grabbing the lube, but I was like, too much. Let's get it, Aldo. Thanks for hanging out in here, man. I appreciate seeing you as always. Dude, super fights in the room. Sup, Weezy and Jimmy. Dude, what is up, super fights? Thanks for hanging out for just the tip. We got Jack Attack MMA. What's up, Weezy? Shaq back from the Shadow Realm. Jack, good to see you, my man. You are always welcome here on Just the Tip, as is everybody else that is in the room. It's always good to see you guys. OKK, shout out Sabatini, Al Hassan, and D-Rod, my boys for life. Well, I was not on D-Rod. I was on Lee. And I certainly was not on Al Hassan. I was on D. Carico. I was on Sabatini, though. And unfortunately, I didn't bet him because he made my read about saying that the only reason I was picking Sabatini was for fight IQ, and Jamal Emmers did it again. He pulled a fight IQ boner just like he did in the Giga Chikadze fight by not trying to take down for 7 minutes and then watching Giga fold like a lawn chair under the takedown attempt. You know, oh well, you play footsie with Pat Sabatini, and now Jamal Emmers probably is going to be messed up for a minute. Those leg locks are absolutely vicious. I hope he's got a very speedy recovery because Jamal Emmers has got a very bright future in the sport. He's got tremendous athleticism. He's got tremendous size. He's got great wrestling for the division. He's got really good striking. If he could just put it all together, Jamal Emmers can go a long way. So I hope to see him healing up quick and coming back soon because I think he's a very exciting fighter. Shout out OKK. Good to see you, my man. And Jack Attack saying, did everybody really think Candelario won that second round? Blows my mind. I got to go back and watch it. I was making dinner and kind of getting ready for the show tonight. And plus, I was on Pub Sports Radio at 6, and I did a balls deep breakdown earlier at 3. I have been busy. I'm going to have to go back and give those fights a closer watch. Just the tip, Jack Attack, just the tip tonight. We got Dan Goldstein saying, as the blessed mother once said to the baby daddy, just the tip. And we got Weezy's greasy 4-legger for this week. Mere sharded all the parlays. Yes. Let me get through the rest of the comments here, Hammer and Hog, and I will give you my greasy 4-legger for the week. And we got Jack Attack saying, I'll be having nightmares about not betting Al Hassan round 1 for the rest of my life. I'm putting it in the rearview mirror, Jack Attack. And what I'm going to do is that I have got Abdul Razak Al Hassan on Uncle Weezy's list. And he's the only name on that list, and that right now is the do not ever bet on or against list. Just don't ever do it. Sabatini is indeed repping Philly, Palama Lou Diamond Phillips. That dude is repping Philly in a major way. Other guys like the Dawkins brothers, like Sean Brady. Philly's definitely bringing up some really good talent right now. And Pat Sabatini, 2-0 in the UFC, definitely got some heat on him right now. And he's going to be climbing that ladder. So it's good to see him repping Philly like Palama Lou Diamond Phillips wants Pat Sabatini to rep Philly. And Asphalt saying, digging the road, my man. The smoking jacket is on. It's Tuesday night. We're going to go just the tip into these stats. And Hammer and Hog saying, let's go just the tip into all this. And let's get it out of the way right off the start here. And let's get the greasy 4-leg parlay in here. So what we are going to do is we're going to put Jack Shore in there, Hammer and Hog. Jack Shore is the parlay corner piece of any parlay bet that you're making this week in mixed martial arts. You got to love Jack Shore winning this fight. I mean, there's not a lot of value on it at like minus 500 at this point, so you don't need me to tell you that that's a parlay piece, but that's one of the safest ones. Also, let's go with the Yeon Kim, Molly McCann fight goes to decision. That will be the second of the greasy 4-leg parlay that I always give Hammering Hog on just the tip. Or not on just the tip. I usually give it to Hammer and Hog actually on a balls deep breakdown. However, it's just the tip. We're getting started here. Let's see if we can find a fight doesn't go to decision here. Ooh, Aspinall Spivac. Aspinall Spivac fight does not go to decision. And what else? What will be the greasiest of the greasy 4th leg on this? Do we go Jonathan Dragon Martinez? Do we go with Marc Barriault? Can he win minutes against Dalcha Lungiambula? Do we go Charles Jourdain? But with the bad takedown defense. Oh, boy. Pimblett Vendramini fight doesn't go to decision, perhaps. Oh, boy. Erosa Jourdain fight doesn't go to decision. That'll be the 4th leg. Erosa Jourdain fight doesn't go to decision. The greasy 4-leg parlay, courtesy of your Uncle Weezy. Jack Shore money line. McCann fight goes to decision. Erosa Jourdain fight doesn't go to decision. And Tom Aspinall, Serghei Spivac fight doesn't go to decision. Let's start looking into these fights, you guys. Let's go. We've got the stats up on the screen. The very first fight that we're going to talk about is Jonathan Dragon Martinez versus Marcelo Rojo. If we look at the measurables here, we're going to see that Jonathan Martinez is 6 years younger, and he is a southpaw. And we've got a slight 1-inch reach advantage for Marcelo Rojo. I am giving the measurables advantage to one Jonathan Dragon Martinez. And if we talk about experience here, let me center my screen here. And yeah, we've got 50 more minutes of pro cage time for Jonathan Martinez. We've got 6 more fights at the UFC level for Jonathan Martinez. We've got 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. He's fought almost half of his pro career at the UFC level, 7 out of 17 fights, while Rojo has spent 95% of his career as a regional scene fighter, only one fight out of 23 being at the UFC level, even though he was on UFC Ultimate Fighter South America some years back. So Rojo has got 6 more pro fights than Jonathan Dragon Martinez. He's got 3 more years as a pro, 88% finish rate as a pro, and 14 of his 16 pro wins are inside the distance. We've got a 38% finish rate by submission and a 50% finish rate by knockout. And we see that Marcelo Rojo is also being finished in 71% of his losses, 14% by KO, 57% by sub. So I see Marcelo Rojo as a killer be killed fighter here. We don't have a ton of statistics because Marcelo Rojo only has one UFC fight, but we do see that in that fight, he was 36% accurate with his strikes. He landed 5.1 per minute, but absorbed 7.3. So we didn't see great striking defense out of Rojo, but what we did see was a super high-paced fight. 14.05 strikes per minute that he threw, and his opponent threw 15.15 per minute. So we saw Marcelo Rojo get knocked down twice and 106 significant strikes absorbed. So we saw a super high-paced fight, and Martinez is not exactly low volume in his own right with 9.14 significant strikes attempts against, 9.284. He's showing a lot of power. I like the Jonathan Martinez knockout prop here because we've seen Rojo sat on his ass twice in the UFC, and we've seen Jonathan Martinez actually get, it looks like 5 UFC knockdowns in just 7 UFC fights. So there is definitely a path to victory for Jonathan Martinez via his striking. If we talk about grappling, we just don't know here in terms of Rojo has been controlled 20%, only controlled 3% his opponent. So Rojo 50% on his takedowns, Martinez 8 takedown attempts in 7 fights, only 63% takedown defense here. He's being taken down 1.13 times per 15 minutes, but I'm seeing this as a Martinez striking advantage, a Martinez grappling advantage. I'm going to say Martinez has the measurables, the striking, and the strength of schedule advantage. The grappling and the experience is actually kind of close. Jonathan Martinez is a favorite here for a reason. I think the fight doesn't go to decision might be the best bet for this particular fight. Because Rojo is so explosive, you don't want to just lay the kind of juice that Martinez is going to cost you, because right now, Jonathan Martinez is a minus 155 to a minus 160-ish favorite. Marcelo Rojo on the bounce back, plus 135 about on the aggregate. So the pick here is going to be Jonathan Martinez. I pick him to get it done inside the distance here due to the fact that Marcelo Rojo does not see the bell barely at all in his professional career. The next fight that we're going to look at is Dalcha Lungiambula versus Marc Barriault. And if we bring up these statistics here, we're going to see that Barriault is the younger man by 3 years. He's got a height advantage. Dalcha Lungiambula has a 2-inch reach advantage, but I would definitely give Barriault the measurables advantage here, being younger and taller. Lungiambula does have the reach advantage. However, I think that has more to do with the muscle and the frame on his body that kind of jut his shoulders out even further. I don't think he's got longer arms than Barriault. Anyway, the experience advantage is going to Barriault here. 4 more pro fights, about 30 more minutes in the cage, almost identical length of pro career, a couple more fights at the UFC level. Lungiambula, looking at his body, you would think he's a better finisher than what he is, but his finish rate is only 54% as a pro, while for Marc Barriault, it's 75%. And then if we look at losses, we see that Lungiambula has been knocked out once and he's been subbed once, while Marc Barriault in his 4 losses has never been finished. So Dalcha Lungiambula not being a great finisher, Marc Barriault having never been finished, and Lungiambula's tendency to have fights take place at a high percentage in control time positions, 41% control time for, 27% control time against, leads me to believe that the absolute value, if you're on the Lungiambula side here, is to bet him by decision. And let me just tell you what that decision line is. Lungiambula by decision is plus 300. So that's pretty nice. And I think his win condition is decision for the following reasons. Let's look at Marc Barriault's striking numbers. So Barriault, quite a bit of volume for a light heavyweight and for a middleweight. 11.17 significant strikes for, 10.82 significant strikes attempted against him. He lands 5.36 and absorbs 4.79 for a positive significant strike differential of 0.57. He's got a 55% striking defense and a 48% striking accuracy. He's landing a knockdown on about half of 1% of the significant strikes that he lands, so about 1 out of every 200. That's 0.43 knockdowns for 15 minutes, and he's never been knocked down. Well, if we look at Dalcha's numbers, we see he's only landing 1.85 significant strikes a minute and only absorbing 2.27. So he does have a negative significant strike differential, but he does have a lot of power, landing a knockdown once in only 67 significant strikes landed for a 1.5% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. That's averaging 0.41 knockdowns per 15 minutes, but he's also been knocked down on 1.22% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed for 0.41 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. So I do see a chance for Barriault to knock out Lungiambula. And we do see here, if we look at the grappling numbers, we see that Barriault's fights are taking place in control time position, 14% for and 24% against. So about 3/8 of the time, 38%. But Lungiambula is at about 68%, so 30% more. And Barriault's even had a high percentage of control time against at 24%. So Lungiambula is just much more comfortable in the striking, in the grappling, I should say. He's a judo black belt. He's got a great judo base, and he is very economical with his takedowns, having got 5 of 10 in the UFC in only 3 fights, 50% takedown accuracy, 2.07 takedowns for 15 minutes, and a 41% control time for. While he's got a 75% control takedown defense, he's being taken down 0.41 times for 15 minutes, being controlled 27.5% of the time. So Lungiambula is going to be trying to get this fight to the ground because Barriault is a very effective and very accurate kickboxer with good power and a great gas tank. And Lungiambula is not going to be able to stand up to Barriault's stand-up. So he's going to have to try to get this fight to the ground over and over again. Barriault has shown decent takedown defense thus far in the UFC, 72.41% on the aggregate. That's 21 of 29 takedown attempts have been successfully defended for Barriault. And only 29 takedown attempts, he's being controlled about 24% of the time. So that would be about 17 minutes. So he's being controlled less than a minute per takedown attempt, about 2 minutes per takedown, though. So his get-up game has to be a little bit better. And Lungiambula is got about, I would say, 3.6 times 4, 7.2, 14 point, about 15 minutes of control time on only 5 takedowns. So that's about 3 minutes of control time per takedown that he's getting. So there's a potential for Dalcha to get takedowns, to win minutes, and to therefore win rounds using his takedown game, clinch game, and ground and pound. It's going to be up to Marc Barriault to stop those takedowns, keep the fight standing, and in the striking realm where he will be the better fighter and where Dalcha Lungiambula will fade very fast, especially under the fantastic conditioning of Barriault. If we look at the experience strength of schedule numbers here, we see Barriault much better at 1.31 ratio in comparison to 0.88 for Lungiambula. So definitely the strength of schedule advantage for Barriault here. And we see that he's got wins, fights over guys like he's got Sanchez, Jotko, Junyong Park, Pachota, and Azatar, while we see Ankalaev is the big name on Lungiambula's resume, but then Marcus Perez, not great. Taquan Townsend, 0-4 in the UFC. Andrew Van Zyl is a heavyweight in South Africa. I watched the tape on that fight. He's not great. And Stuart Austin, I don't even know who he is. Anyway, the strength of schedule advantage here goes to Barriault. You know, I think Lungiambula's path to victory here is using his grappling and top game in order to win minutes and win a greasy decision. While I think Marc Barriault, if he does stop the takedowns, the longer that he keeps this fight standing, the higher the probability is that he's going to knock out Dalcha Lungiambula, who has never lost by decision. 100% of Dalcha's losses have come inside the distance. So if I were on the Lungiambula side, I would bet him by decision. If I were on the Barriault side, I would bet him inside the distance. I am on the Barriault side. I'm betting him inside the distance here. That is going to be my pick for this fight. Next, we're going to go and see what's up with the Julian Erosa versus Charles Jourdain fight. And let's see what we got, you guys, here. We've got you guys are killing it in the chat. Hammering Hog, Dan Goldstein. We got Z's MMA in the room. Good to see you, Z. He's amongst his people. We got my guy Chris Colanzis in the room. Chris and I have got a fantasy football draft together on Thursday that we are going to absolutely dominate. But first things first, you guys, just to tip into 10 fights. We're only 2 fights into this card. So let's get these Erosa Jourdain numbers on the screen. There was a balls deep breakdown on my channel yesterday that I posted on the Lungiambula Barriault fight. Check that out if you want to go deeper into the stats of that fight. I also did an Erosa Jourdain balls deep breakdown on my channel earlier today. Check that out if you want to go deeper into the stats of this fight. I am picking Charles Jourdain in this fight. He is younger by 7 years, but Julian Erosa is going to have the measurables advantage outside of that, being 5 inches taller and having a 5-inch reach advantage. Erosa is a southpaw, and Jourdain fights out of both stances. We've got Erosa with a significant experience advantage, having almost 20 more professional fights than Jourdain. Almost twice as much cage time, about 160 more minutes of cage time. Twice as long of a professional career, and about an 11-year professional career for Julian Erosa, while it's only a 5.5-year career for Charles Jourdain. Jourdain, very young, 25 years old, still getting better, yet even though he's only 25 and he's only got 15 professional fights, 5 of them at the UFC level. So he has been fighting a higher percentage of his career at the highest level in comparison to Erosa, who has 34 fights, 9 of them being UFC fights. Just a second. And then, what do we got for finish numbers here? Let's go. So Erosa more experienced, but Jourdain fighting a higher percentage of his career at the highest level. Now, this is one of the reasons that I told Hammer and Hog that I like this fight ending inside the distance. Charles Jourdain, 11 professional wins, 73% by KO, 27% by sub. We add up 73 and 27, and we get 100, my friends, 100% finish rate. And then Julian Erosa, 44% finish rate by knockout, 44% finish rate by submission. That means 88% of his professional wins have come inside the distance. 11 by submission, 11 by knockout. That's 22 of 25 of his wins have come inside the distance. Julian Erosa's losses have been more than half the time inside the distance of 56%. But however, in the UFC, 80% of the time inside the distance, while Charles Jourdain has never been finished. So that is something that we have to be aware of. However, Julian Erosa is a very good finisher. So who's to say that Julian Erosa won't be the first one to catch him? So that's one of the reasons that I gave that as one of my 4-leg parlays here, because I do think that this fight is going to finish inside the distance. Both of these guys are prolific finishers on the offensive end. And in 12 career losses between the two of them, we've got 5 of them finishing inside the distance. So that's almost half. But Christ, it's like over 90% on the offensive end. So I think that this one will finish. If we look at the striking numbers here, both of these guys are excellent strikers. But I want to keep in mind, since we're keeping this short, 1.51% of the strikes that Charles Jourdain lands have resulted in a knockout for 1 point or in a knockdown. So 1.09 knockdowns per 15 minutes he's averaging. And then Erosa on the chinny side at 1.49 knockdowns per total significant strikes absorbed percentage for 1.29 knockdowns absorbed for 15 minutes. And then Erosa is getting 0.43 knockdowns for 15 minutes. And Jourdain is being knocked down 0.43 times for 15 minutes. So both of these guys are landing multiple knockdowns and getting knocked down. So this is a fight that I do see ending violently. I do see it potentially ending by KO, but both of these guys, Jourdain being a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in his own right, and Julian Erosa having 11 professional wins by submission, I wouldn't just bet that this fight ends in knockout, even though I feel like it does. I just would bet that I would bet that it ends inside the distance, because both of these guys are equal opportunity finishers and can finish you just as easily by submission as they can by knockout. Charles Jourdain is one thing that I have to bring up with you guys here, is that he has got the worst takedown defense I've ever seen. Especially if you watch his regional scene footage, it's absolutely pathetic. This guy's takedown defense is terrible. It's less than 50%. He's averaging being taken down 2.17 times per 15 minutes, although his get-up game has been good in the UFC. We have to be careful that if Julian Erosa does decide that he, instead of walking forward, putting his chin up, and potentially getting knocked out, if he wants to play it a little bit safer now that he's getting a little bit older, he could win minutes and win rounds potentially in this fight by getting takedowns. So we have to be aware that that's a possibility. If we look at strength of schedule statistics here, we're going to see that Erosa has fought more UFC fights, so he's probably had more UFC level competition. If we look at the numbers just from my metric, we're going to see a 1.75 ratio here for Julian and a 1.15 ratio for Jourdain, with Jourdain fighting the slightly more experienced competition. I'll give Erosa just a slight strength of schedule advantage here. I'll give Erosa an experience advantage and a measurables advantage in the size, but I think Jourdain's going to be the better striker here, and I think that most of this fight is going to take place in the striking realm, and as a result of that, I'm going to have to pick Charles Jourdain inside the distance here, most likely by knockout, because Julian Erosa has been very chinny. He's been knocked out in 4 out of his 5 UFC losses, so that would be the way that I would try to get some value on the Jourdain, either inside the distance prop or the KO prop, instead of laying, I believe, around minus 180, minus 190 for Jourdain. The aggregate right now is minus 186. So I am thinking that in order to get some value on Jourdain, if you think he's going to win this fight, and I think he wins it inside the distance if he does, Jourdain by KO plus 140, Jourdain inside the distance plus 120. I would just do the inside the distance. It could be a club and sub. You don't want to lose a bet by getting one of those. So yeah, the pick is Jourdain inside the distance here. Let's go to the next matchup, which is going to be Jack Shore versus Liudvik Sholinian. You guys, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one. This line right now is about minus 500 on Jack Shore. Minus 500. And Liudvik Sholinian is a pretty good all-around fighter. If you watched this season of Tough, you saw that the guy is pretty good. I mean, he got a win in the house. He lost his second fight. He's good. But God, he's fighting Jack Shore on short notice. I mean, it's just such a tall ask. Jack Shore exhausts people. Jack Shore sticks to you. He's like a psycho ex-girlfriend that you can't get rid of. It's just on you. You can't breathe. It's in your skin. It's in your pores. He's going to be smelling Jack Shore for the next 3 weeks in his dreams. This guy just sticks to people. If we look at the numbers on Jack Shore in his UFC career, look at this number right here, you guys. 48.73% control time. 13 for 28 on takedown attempts. And guess what? He's only got 3 UFC fights, and he's got 28 takedown attempts. And he's getting them at a 50% clip. And those takedowns that he's getting are resulting in fights that go to decision that are 15 minutes of him getting basically 7 to 7.5 minutes of control time. It's almost impossible to lose a fight when you're getting that much control time, you guys. So Jack Shore on short notice is an absolute nightmare of a matchup. Good luck, Liudvik, Sholinian. This is the tallest ask. Your manager owes you a fucking favor, and if you're giving him a cut of the money that you're going to get paid to go on there and get your ass shaved this week, you better fucking tell that guy, you better get me a much easier fight next week or next month or next year whenever I'm ready to come back from this ass beating that I'm about to get from Jack Shore, because the UFC owes you one, Jack or Liudvik Sholinian, for taking this fight on short notice, because I just don't like the matchup, dude. Shore is a killer. And the particular style that he brings is the kind that you need to be in camp for 6 to 8 weeks to get ready for it. Taking the fight on 8 days notice, nah, son. Jack Shore by just whatever he wants, but it probably will be by grapple fuck. I don't know if it'll be inside the distance or not. That's not important to me. Jack Shore has finished 2 of his 3 UFC wins by submission, and overall, we're talking an 86% finish rate. Liudvik Sholinian does only have 1 loss. That was by decision. He's got a 44% finish rate in his own right. So Sholinian's fights go the distance way more often than they don't. 7 out of his 11 fights have went the distance. So I don't know if I'd want to pay up the extra that Sholinian kind of just avoids the submission here. But the pick is Jack Shore easily. So let's just move on to the next one here, because this is a fight that I want to spend just a little bit of time on. Molly McCann versus Fire Fist Yeon Kim. And if you are not excited to see Fire Fist back in the cage, then you're like your Uncle Weezy, because I'm not excited either, you guys. And something tells me that she's not a natural blonde to begin with. So I almost kind of feel like she's lying to me, and that, the nickname Fire Fist is lying to me by telling me that I'm going to see something exciting in a Yeon Kim fight. And that's a lie. And then that hair color is a lie. And I don't know. I just feel like your Uncle Weezy hates being lied to. But you know what? You know what doesn't lie, you guys? The numbers. So let's get into them here. Molly McCann, the meatball, has a reach like a meatball, only 62 inches, while Yeon Kim has a 72-inch reach. So Yeon Kim is going to be the taller, longer woman here, and she's got a 10-inch reach advantage. If we look at the experience numbers, they're almost identical. 14 professional fights for both of them, 6 UFC fights for both of them. The cage time, the length of career, all that almost identical. Molly McCann, 40% finish rate as a pro. Yeon Kim, 55% finish rate as a pro. In their 6 combined UFC wins, only one of them have finished inside the distance, and that was Yeon Kim knocking out Nadia Assam in the second round 2 fights ago for Yeon Kim. And Molly McCann has been finished once in her career, and Yeon Kim has never been finished. One of the reasons that I like this fight to go the distance, which is one of the reasons I put it in my greasy ass 4-leg parlay for my guy Hammer and Hog. If we look at the striking numbers here, we see that Yeon Kim couldn't hit water if she fell out of a boat. 34.32% striking accuracy. That is not good, you guys. And she's throwing a lot of volume, 13.1 significant strike attempts per minute, but she's only landing 4.49, and she's getting outlanded by about a half strike per minute, despite the fact that her opponents are throwing about 1.33 less significant strikes than her. Molly McCann showing much better striking defense at 65% compared to 57% for Yeon Kim. And McCann has been a lot more accurate with a 50% striking accuracy, a 65% striking defense. She's landing almost one more significant strike per minute than Kim is. So the striking numbers, even though Kim's going to be the longer girl, even though it looks like on paper Kim's going to be throwing more significant strikes, I kind of feel like the striking numbers are close. Here's where I see the difference in the fight, you guys. And we'll look at the advanced stats here, which are available on DFS by the Numbers Patreon for only $10 a month. It's ridiculously cheap, and there's so much more to his package than that in terms of the DraftKings stats that he gets for ownership and for projections and for DFS multi-entry lineups. The amount of statistics that this dude has on his Patreon is fantastic. And for $10 a month, there's really no better deal because you're getting an optimizer with it. You get the Discord community, all that stuff. So check out DFS by the Numbers Patreon. It's got all this stuff and like 20 times more. But we're looking at Molly McCann with some of the worst takedown defense in the UFC. And this has been part of the reason that she's lost in the UFC, is that she's sporting a 28.57% takedown defense, only successfully defending 6 of 21 takedown attempts against, right? But here's the thing. Yeon Kim has attempted 1 takedown in 6 UFC fights. So the biggest glaring weakness in Molly McCann's game is not going to be taken advantage of by Yeon Kim here, because Yeon Kim doesn't attempt takedowns. She prefers to keep the fight on the feet and throw strikes that miss. Now, Molly McCann has attempted 31 takedowns in the UFC in only 6 fights, so just over 5 takedowns per fight. She's gotten 9 of them. She's getting 1.64 takedowns per 15 minutes, but only 9.04% control time. Here's the thing. Yeon Kim has a less than 50% takedown defense in her own right, and she's getting controlled 15% of her UFC cage time, which is about 13 minutes on only 4 takedowns. So there is a path to victory. There is a path to winning minutes. There is a path to winning rounds for Molly McCann to use her wrestling. Now let's go to the advanced stats here. And let's see what we got here from Molly McCann and Yeon Kim. And if we take just a little bit of a deeper look into the numbers here, you guys, I want to point out something. And of course, all right, there we go. So let's look at Molly McCann's numbers here, which are up on the screen. And we can see the fights that she won. Diana Belbita, striker. Ariana Lipsky, striker. Priscilla Catch-A-Beating, striker. Okay? Look at the takedowns and the takedown attempts in these fights. In the 3 fights that Molly McCann has won, she's gotten 9 takedowns out of 27 attempts. She's gotten 219 seconds of control time, 44 seconds of control time, and 74 seconds of control time as a result of getting those takedowns. She's won all those fights against strikers. Who's she lost to? Well, they're the ones that aren't highlighted. Lara Procopio, black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Talia Santos, just a monster, but also a very good grappler in her own right. And then Julian Robertson, a jiu-jitsu specialist who subs most of her wins. So we can see that when Molly McCann loses fights, and these are the ones that aren't highlighted, 7 of 9 takedowns, 5 of 7 takedowns, 2 out of 4 takedowns. See, we can see completely different fights. The fights that McCann wins are against strikers, and she takes them down and controls them. The fights that she loses are against grapplers, and they take Molly down. See, Jeon Kim isn't going to take Molly down. So that this fight is lined at about a 50-50. I love the Molly McCann side here. I'm picking her to win by decision because I don't think she could finish a glass of water at this point. And Jeon Kim has never been finished in all of her losses. So I like this fight for Molly McCann. I'm going to pick her to win by decision. And I have a 1.5 unit bet on Molly McCann. And I made that bet after seeing these stats, seeing the difference in the fights that she won as compared to the fights that she lost. And then, if you go up, if you want to just scroll up and look through the numbers here for Jeon Kim, we can see the girls that she's beaten. Justine Kish, Melinda Fabian, 0-1 in the UFC, and then Nadia Assam, 1-2 in the UFC. But look at this Justine Kish fight. That was a win by split decision. So was the Melinda Fabian fight, also a win by split decision. But against Justine Kish, Fire Fist landed 68 significant strikes and did nothing else. And Justine Kish landed 96 significant strikes and somehow managed to lose that fight. So I don't think Jeon Kim is very good anyway. I think she could easily be 1-5 after 2 of her 3 wins being by split decision. And I don't think we'd even be thinking about only Molly McCann being minus 105 if she was fighting a 1-5 fighter in the UFC as opposed to a 3-3 fighter. But let's move on, you guys. We've talked long enough about that fight. We've got the newcomer, Paddy Pimblett. I've tried to listen to some interviews with this dude, but he is completely fucking unintelligible. I can't understand a word that he says. He sounds like Brad Pitt in the movie Snatch. But he's fun to watch. If you like these Children of the Damned type haircuts, with the blonde hair and the straight and the really creepy looking like bangs and like who wears bangs? Paddy Pimblett wears bangs. And guess what? This dude fucks. I mean, he's 16-3. He's only 26 years old. He's a young man, and he's been a fucking Cage Warriors champion for a very long time. He defended his first title defense, as a matter of fact, was against Julian Erosa. And on the other side, we got a very young man in his own right in Luigi Vendramini, who's only 25 years old. I don't have a reach for Pimblett, but he's going to have the longer reach here, I'm pretty sure. Pimblett's going to be 2 inches taller. We see Pimblett even, 8 more professional fights, 100 more minutes of cage time, and about 3.5 more years as a pro. And Luigi Vendramini, though, has been 3 UFC level fights thus far. Vendramini, one interesting stat here is a 4.55 minute average fight time. So this is a fight that could easily finish inside the distance. We got some nerves probably on Paddy's side making his UFC debut, but he has been a champion and he has fought a lot of 5-round fights. But, this is going to be, this is the UFC, and he's coming all the way across the pond, flying all the way from whatever crazy English town they talk like that in, all the way to Las Vegas, man. So, and Vendramini's been there before. Vendramini's been doing this for a minute. This is going to be his 4th UFC fight. So he's a little more experience at this level. But if we look at the finish stats here, Luigi Vendramini, you guys, has a 100% finish rate. And he has been finished in one of his 2 losses. So 10 of Vendramini's 11 professional fights have finished inside the distance, win or lose. While for Pimblett, we've got a 75% finish rate, so 12 of 16 wins inside the distance, 1 of 3 losses inside the distance, 13 of 19 fights finishing inside the distance for Paddy Pimblett. So at almost, 91% finish rate for Vendramini, win or lose, and then Pimblett almost up there around 70%. This fight could probably easily finish inside the distance. Pimblett, an excellent grappler, great wrestling for a young man. especially for a Brit. And Luigi Vendramini is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's got some good power in his hands as well. He's landed a knockdown in his short UFC tenure, only landing 51 significant strikes. He's been knocked down a couple of times here. These are guys that are going to be pretty explosive. Pimblett's not the best striker, but he does tend to be able to get the fight down to the ground where he's the most comfortable. The question to me is whether Vendramini is going to be able to really threaten Paddy down there. Paddy going to be the longer guy. Paddy going to be the taller guy. Paddy probably going to be the guy with the better conditioning, having fought 5 rounds or been training for 5-round fights for a very long time. So this is a very hard fight to call. Here's the thing that's sticking out for me, you guys, is that I've seen good wrestling out of Paddy Pimblett. Luigi Vendramini in 3 UFC fights is 1 for 12 on his takedown attempts with an 8.33% takedown efficiency. 25.89% control time for, only 0.74% control time against. But that's probably because his opponents aren't shooting any takedowns and he's shot 12. He's only got 22 minutes of cage time. So 25 minutes, or 25% control time is like 5 minutes. So that's about 30 seconds of control time per takedown attempt. If Luigi can't get this fight to the ground, but Paddy can, I got to believe that Paddy's going to be the one that wins this fight, but I'm not picking this one with a lot of confidence. But my pick is going to be Paddy Pimblett, and it's going to be inside the decision or inside the distance, because I do think that this fight is going to finish inside the distance. Both of these guys are pretty explosive. Both of these guys are very good finishers, and both of these guys have been finished in their losses. So the pick is going to be Paddy Pimblett by submission here. Let's see. We've got the next fight is going to be Modestas Bukauskas, the Lithuanian, against Khalil Rountree, one of the least consistent and least predictable fighters on the UFC roster. We've seen a lot of variance out of Khalil Rountree. Sometimes he looks fantastic, and sometimes he looks god-awful. And he is one of those guys that is probably going to be joining Abdul Razak Al Hassan on the don't bet on or against list, because it's just kind of hard to figure out which Khalil Rountree is going to show up. Khalil Rountree, 4 years older than Modestas Bukauskas. Bukauskas is going to be 2 years 2 inches taller, and they're going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Bukauskas fights out of both stances. Rountree is listed as a southpaw. So I would give Bukauskas definitely the experience advantage here, or I'm sorry, the measurables advantage and the pro experience advantage. However, Khalil Rountree, 10 UFC fights, 14 professional fights. So he's been fighting over 2/3 of his career at the highest level. While Bukauskas, who's also a Cage Warriors champion, not unlike Paddy Pimblett, who we talked about in the last fight, Bukauskas, 20% of his career has been fighting at the UFC level. However, prior to that, he was fighting championship level fights in England in Cage Warriors. If we look at the finish rates for these guys, we're going to see that Khalil Rountree has finished 63% of his professional wins by knockout. That is 5 of 8. While we've got Bukauskas here with a 91% finish rate, 10 out of his 11 wins coming inside the distance. That would be, I'm guessing, 8 by knockout and 2 by submission. That's fantastic. And we do see that Khalil Rountree in his 5 professional losses has been finished in 3 of them. And we also see that Khalil Rountree, while having a 63% knockout rate, Modestas Bukauskas has been finished in 3 out of his 4 losses. So if we add up the 4 losses for Bukauskas and the 5 for Rountree, that's 9. And if we add up how many times they've been finished, 3 each. So 6 out of 9 of their career losses have come inside the distance. So I kind of like, a fight doesn't go to decision number for me. Anything below -200, -190, -180 could be bettable. in my opinion, just on how I like to look at that particular prop. Both of these guys have lost inside the distance. Both of these guys have pretty good finish rates offensively. Bukauskas, one of the things that we don't see in the numbers here is that this guy has got fantastic conditioning. One of his biggest holes in his game prior to coming to the UFC was bad takedown defense. Because he's a good kickboxer, because he's very long and uses his length well, and not only that, he has very good footwork and very good movement, and he can frustrate you with that movement, and he can be very hard to find. But when he is standing in front of you, he's very hittable. And that is a very bad thing to be against a guy that hits as hard as Khalil Rountree does. So this is going to be an interesting one. I could see Khalil Rountree with these big power numbers that he's putting up here. 3.43% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. 1.58 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And then if we look at Modestas Bukauskas' chin, only 50% striking defense, 2.08% knockdowns per total significant strikes absorbed. He's getting knocked down 1.36 times for 15 minutes. So if we're looking at one guy who's likely to knock the other one out, that's Rountree. And if you're looking for one of these two guys to be the one to get knocked out, it's Bukauskas. Rountree has absorbed 276 significant strikes in the UFC, only been knocked down once, and that's in 10 UFC fights. So that's pretty impressive. He's got a good chin. We can't say for the same for Bukauskas here. Neither one of these guys is going to wrestle. In 13 combined UFC fights, they have, between the two of them, mind you, one takedown attempt. So let's not even talk about grappling. Who's going to win the striking exchanges? Is it going to be Bukauskas with his backwards movement? Is he going to stay on his bike? Is he going to circle around the outside of the cage, try to pick Rountree apart with jabs? Or is Rountree going to cut him off, land that big shot? Is he going to try to get him to stand in front of him so that he can land that shot that sends him to the shadow realm? He's been knocked down before. The thing is that Khalil Rountree I'd much rather bet on Khalil Rountree as an underdog than I would as a favorite. Because right now, the way I feel about Khalil Rountree is that his only win condition is a knockout. Because he's not a minute winner. He doesn't throw enough volume, 7.98 significant strikes a minute. He lands 3.06, but absorbs 3.63. So he's getting hit more than he hits. He's only got a 39% accuracy, and he's showing, as bad as Modestas Bukauskas' 50% striking defense is, Rountree's is even just a hair worse at 49.36. So I kind of feel like, you can't bet Rountree as a favorite because you're just counting on that knockout. If he doesn't get that knockout and it goes to a decision, we saw what happened in his last fight against Marcin Prachnio. He lost the decision, and it was kind of hard to argue that he didn't lose that decision. So I think that Rountree's win condition is the knockout. The fact that he's an underdog means that we can get an even better knockout line on Khalil Rountree Jr. Khalil Rountree by knockout is wow. There's a lot of props here, and I'm completely missing it. Oh, Junior. Okay, so they're just calling him Junior. Junior round 3, Junior decision. Junior inside the distance is plus 175, plus 190, plus 225. Junior by submission. Junior by KO, plus 240. Is that on FanDuel? That's on DraftKings, actually. Plus 240 on DraftKings. Khalil Rountree Jr. wins by KO. I think that's how he wins. I think that's his win condition. I'm going to pick Khalil Rountree to win this fight. I'm going to pick him to win it by KO. But I think it's a very close fight, and I think that Modestas Bukauskas is the better minute winner here, and I think that he's going to have his conditioning, movement, footwork, and distance management is going to probably help him win a decision. However, I think the value is on the Rountree knockout side, and it just seems like, you have to wait for this guy to be an underdog and for people to start doubting him, for him to realize, oh shit, I better step up my game, start to, fulfill some of my potential, because we know that when Khalil Rountree looks good, he looks damn good. So I'm going to pick Rountree to win by knockout, but I'm not telling you to bet it, because I think Bukauskas could easily win minutes and rounds here and kind of win a decision. Let's move on to the next one, though, you guys. The next fight on the card is Alex Morono against David Zawada. Wow. This is such a hard fight to call for me. Morono, with the volume that he puts out, is hard to ignore. We've got Zawada being slightly taller, having a 3-inch reach advantage here, so he's going to have a little bit of a measurables advantage. Morono, with four more professional fights, they have the exact amount of cage time at 211 and a half minutes. Their career length's almost identical. It's just that Morono has fought half of his career at the UFC level, while for Zawada, it's about less than 20%. So definitely some experience advantage here for Morono. 64% finish rate for Morono, 32% by KO, 32% by sub, 34% by decision. And Zawada, more of a knockout artist, at 65% of his professional wins coming by knockout. That would be 6. That'd be 12. No, I think it's 11. And then 4. So 15 of his 17 wins have come inside the distance. David Zawada, an excellent finisher. Morono been finished in 2 out of his 7 losses. Zawada, 3 out of his 6 losses. So, this could be a fight that finishes. This fight should probably take place in the striking realm. Neither one of these guys attempts a ton of takedowns. Zawada, 10 in 4 fights. Morono, 16 takedown attempts in 13 fights. Both of these guys averaging less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes, 0.43 for Morono, 0.96 for Zawada. And then if we look at the control time, Zawada's been controlled 35% of the time. He's only controlled his opponents 12%, so he's a lot more likely to spend time on his back. While for Morono, he's been out-controlled about 15% to 8% by his opponents. Not bad. His opponents are, attempting 23 takedowns for Morono's 4. Morono's takedown defense has been bad at 52%. So Wada's not much better at 57%. What's interesting about this fight is that even though Zawada is only attempting 2.5 takedown attempts per fight, and Morono is only attempting just over 1.25, it looks like if somebody wants to go to the grappling in this fight, that they can win minutes here. Neither one of these guys is defending takedowns at a good pace. Both of these guys is being out controlled by their opponents, especially Zawada here. 12-4, 35 against. That's 47%. So almost half of David Zawada's fights in the UFC, and that's 4 of them. It's a decent sample size, have been taking place in control time positions. So these guys' striking numbers are very similar. Just Morono throws more volume, and Morono's ratios are much better. I'm going to have to pick Alex Morono here, and here's why. He's landing 5.05 significant strikes a minute, only absorbing 3.7, while Zawada is getting hit more than he hits his opponents. He's absorbing 4.07, but only landing 3.24. The knockdowns per 15 minutes are exactly the same. The knockdowns absorbed per 15 minutes, a little bit higher on Zawada's side. Morono's defense just a little bit better. Morono getting out-controlled by his opponents just a little bit less. It's going to be Alex Morono is the pick here. If we look at the strength of schedule, Zawada's fought Amiv, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, Lee, Danny Roberts, Michael Mikulski, while it's Max Griffin, Chaos Williams, Reese McKee, Anthony Pettis, Donald Cerrone. Actually kind of similar in the strength of schedule. Morono with the more experienced opponents, Zawada with the higher win-loss ratio opponents. This fight is pretty close all around. Zawada is not to be underestimated. The guy is very good all around. His Muay Thai is sick, and he has a lot of power, and he finishes a ton of fights, you guys. And Alex Morono is just a dog. The guy was born to do this. He's such a great fighter. He's so fun to watch. He throws a ton of volume. He stays in your face. He's down to scrap. So I think this is low key one of my picks for fight of the night. And I think it's going to be very close. And I could see both of these guys landing big shots. I could see a lot of momentum swings. And I would like to say that I think whichever one of these guys feels like going to the grappling first could find it a really easy way to win minutes in this fight. Both of these guys have got good ground games. Morono, I believe, is a black belt. I know he's a Gracie Barra high-level jiu-jitsu player. And David Zawada is, submitting Nurmagomedov. So, this guy is a legit in his own right. So I'm going to pick Morono here by the slightest of margins. I could even see this one ending up as a draw because I consider it to be such a well-matched fight. But yeah, the pick's going to be Morono. I can't wait for this one, you guys. We're going to skip over Lipsky Bomb because that one is not going to happen. And we've got the co-main event here. We are 1 hour into just the tip. Let me just see if there's anything that I'm missing here in the chat for you guys. We got a couple names that I haven't seen here before. We got Monk in the room. Always good to see. And we got Ugo Will O. Alvy let everyone down. Yeah, man, he let me down too. But yeah, man, you guys are killing it in the chat. I appreciate each and every one of you that is hanging out here live for Just the Tip on a Tuesday night. Blake E. Marquis in the room. What's up, Blake? Thanks for joining us, man. We're an hour in. There's 24 of you guys hanging out live. This is fantastic. Thank you guys so much for hanging out here. We only got 2 more fights to go. Then I just want to say something real quick, and then we're going to get to Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And right now, we have got Tom Aspinall versus Serghei Spivac. This is a great heavyweight matchup here. This is 2 fantastic prospects that I wish weren't fighting each other. It wasn't the original plan. Aspinall was supposed to be fighting Sergey Pavlovich. Pavlovich had visa issues. Serghei Spivac stepping into this fight on about a week's notice, you guys. That is a very important thing. Serghei Spivac is Moldovan, which means he's got to come from Moldova all the way to Las Vegas 1 week, and then he's going to be fighting a guy in Tom Aspinall who is 10-2 overall. One of those 2 losses is for illegal elbows, and this cat has finished, come on, man. I mean, he's got a 100% finish rate, 8 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission, and he's finished 100% of his UFC wins. While Serghei Spivac, as impressive as the 10-2 record is for Aspinall, Serghei Spivac's 13-2. This guy's a stud in his own right. 6 UFC fights. He's fought 40% of his career at the UFC level. He's been a pro mixed martial artist just a little bit longer than Aspinall, has a little more cage time, more UFC fights, longer time in the game, about 50 more minutes of UFC cage time. And Serghei Spivac is finishing 84% of his wins inside the distance. So, that is 11 out of his 13 wins coming inside the distance, man. That is something special. This guy is got a great ground game. When he takes people down, he can get on top of you, stay there, lock you up, and beat the shit out of you. And he finished Tai Tuivasa on the ground. The 3rd round in the Carlos Felipe fight, we saw Spivac get top control and just beat the hell out of Carlos Felipe for the last 4 minutes of that fight. Tom Aspinall is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, but he doesn't want Serghei Spivac on top of him. This line is kind of wide, but we can see if we just look at the striking numbers here for Aspinall in a very small sample size, we see why Aspinall is a big favorite here. He has performed beautifully thus far in the UFC. For a heavyweight to be landing 7.43 significant strikes a minute is seriously high volume. He's only absorbing 3.06. He's got almost a 66% striking defense, and a 66% striking accuracy. He's landing a knockdown on 1.59% of the significant strikes that he lands. That comes out to 1.77 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Serghei Spivac landing 3.85 significant strikes a minute, only absorbing 3.1, 50% accuracy, 56% striking defense. He has been knocked down once in 197 significant strikes absorbed. That was by Walt Harris. He got knocked out by knees. But Serghei Spivac, here's the number that's very key. 12 of 19 on his takedown attempts for 63% accuracy, 2.83 takedowns per 15 minutes, and a 35% control time for and 19% control time against. So he's out-controlling his opponents by about a 2-to-1 ratio, while Aspinall has not even given up a second of control time yet. However, it's important to note that in the 3 fights that Aspinall has had in the UFC, his opponents haven't even attempted a takedown yet. So this is going to be interesting because we do know some things about Tom Aspinall. One thing that we know about Tom Aspinall is this guy's been fucking kicking ass and taking names. And let me just illustrate that for you on his Tapology page. Win over Arlovsky, 109 round 2, rear naked choke. Win over Alan Badeau, 135 round 1, ground and pound. Jake Collier, 45 seconds of round 1, right cross. Michael Ben Hamuda, 56 seconds of round 1, punches. Sofian Bokachu, injury, 121 of round 1. A boxing match where he beat somebody named Thomas Bajzath by 124 in round 1. Won by a punch, 116 in round 1. Won by KO, 105 round 1. Ground and pound, 9 seconds of round 1. So not only did he win a fight in 9 seconds, but he took the guy down inside of 9 seconds and then landed enough strikes to have the fight stopped in 9 seconds. Who gets a ground and pound win in 9 seconds? This guy's unbelievable. And then a win by heel hook in less than a minute, and then a win by strikes in less than a minute. I mean, dude. All of his round 1 victories, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's got 10 round 1 victories, and if you include the boxing bout. The longest one of them went was 1 minute and 35 seconds, and that was Alan Badeau. So the question that I have, what happens if Tom Aspinall gets extended? What happens if this goes out of the first round? What happens if Serghei Spivac gets a takedown early, starts landing some elbows, landing some ground and pound, stays on top of him for 2-3 minutes? What's Aspinall's cardio going to look like? Guys, there's a big missing piece of information here. Like we have a big missing piece of information when you see dudes like Aspinall just starching the shit out of everybody that stands in his path. Spivac's better than all these guys. Spivac would beat Arlovsky. Spivac would murder Badeau. Spivac would murder Jake Collier. This is the only thing that's giving me pause about betting Serghei Spivac as a massive underdog here at plus 220 is the fact that he's taking this fight on short notice. And the type of game plan that he's going to need to implement in order to be successful here is a grappling heavy game plan. And that's an exhausting game plan. It's particularly exhausting trying to take down 250-pound men that are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts like Tom Aspinall. I'm going to pick Aspinall. I'm going to pick him to win inside the distance by knockout. However, that being said, I think Serghei Spivac is the value side here. And if you have any inclination whatsoever that this guy's conditioning is going to be on point and his wrestling is going to be on point for this fight, man, I think it's going to be a tough night for Tom Aspinall. But I just can't count on that with this guy having to go from Moldova to Las Vegas, get a visa, pass COVID tests, get to Vegas, train, do your interviews, all that stuff. God, it's going to be a whirlwind of a week for Serghei Spivac. And let me tell you something, man. If he comes out on top, you better put some respect on Serghei Spivac's name, because if he comes out on top, beating Tom Aspinall on 1 week's notice, flying across the Atlantic Ocean from Moldova to Las Vegas, man, that would be something special. So I'm going to tell you something, man. This is going to be a hell of a fight. I am going to be tuned into this one. I probably won't have any money on it because I just want to sit back and enjoy Tom Aspinall versus Serghei Spivac, two of the rising stars in the UFC's heavyweight division. And that brings us, my friends, to the main event. Derek Brunson versus Darren Till. Darren Till, 9 years younger. Derek Brunson otherwise having the measurables advantage, being 1 inch taller and having a 3-inch reach advantage. Derek Brunson is a natural middleweight, while Darren Till has had 10 UFC fights, but only 2 of them have been at middleweight. Both of those fights coming against former welterweights who were moved up to middleweight. Those guys were Robert Whitaker and Kelvin Gastelum. 2 studs, obviously. But Till, this is going to be the first time that he's fighting a true middleweight with the middleweight frame. Brunson, the more experienced mixed martial artist, here with 7 more fights. Darren Till with a little more cage time. Excuse me here. Had to get some water there. We've got Brunson with about 3 more years as a pro and 8 more UFC level fights. Look at that. 18 fights at the UFC level out of 29. So almost 2/3 of his career at the UFC level. And if I'm not mistaken, he was even in Strikeforce, which was just a notch below the UFC prior to that. So both of these guys are damn good. Darren Till has fought the cream of the crop at 170, and then he's got fights against Whitaker and Gastelum up here at 185, while Derek Brunson has been pretty much fighting the who's who of the middleweight division for a very long time. Compiled a 13-5 UFC record, and ever since he made the move from Brunson Mixed Martial Arts, which was his own gym, to Sanford in South Florida, we've seen Derek Brunson go 4-0 and really kind of start to figure out who he is as a mixed martial artist and how to fight in a way that maximizes his win condition. And that is, I always believe, to use your wrestling. And he has done that very well recently. If we look at the finish numbers for these guys, we got a 69% finish rate for Derek Brunson, 14% by sub, 55% by KO. And we've got a 67% finish rate for Darren Till, 12 of his 18 wins coming inside the distance, 11% by sub, 56% by knockout. And both of these guys are getting finished when they lose more often than they aren't. Darren Till in 3 professional losses has been finished in 2 of them, and Derek Brunson in 7 professional losses has been knocked out in 5 of them. So there's definitely a path for Till inside the distance here, this being a 5-round fight. And there's definitely a path for Brunson inside the distance, as Till has been finished in 2 out of his 3 professional losses. If we go to the striking numbers, we're going to see some pretty good power here by Darren Till, but we're going to see something else that's really kind of jumps off the page, and that is the lack of volume from Darren Till. So Derek Brunson is landing 3.55 significant strikes a minute and only absorbing 2.84 for a positive significant strike differential of 0.71. And he's got good power in his own right. He's landing a knockdown on 0.95% of the significant strikes that he lands. And but Darren Till, he's absorbing more than he lands because he only lands 2.27 significant strikes a minute, and he's absorbing about 3. But he only throws 4.92 significant strike attempts per minute, while his opponents are out-voluming him by a significant amount, almost 50% more, at 7.26 significant strike attempts per minute. So we have to be concerned if this fight were to go to decision. What are the optics going to look like to the judges if Darren Till continues to be so low volume, so hesitant to throw? Brunson throws 7.5 a minute and Till only throws 5. He better land something big, otherwise it might be hard for him to win rounds on the judges' scorecards, being that low volume. But we see that Darren Till is landing a knockdown on about 1.6% of the significant strikes that he lands. So 0.54 knockdowns per 15 minutes, right on par with Brunson's 0.51. And if we see what these guys are absorbing, we see that Derek Brunson has been knocked down on about 1.2% of the total significant strikes that he's absorbed, while for Till, it's about 0.73. So both of these guys can get knocked down as well. So it's not just Till that could land a power punch here, as we see Brunson almost at 1% for his power metric, and Till getting knocked down about 0.75% for his chin metric. So there's paths for both guys to get the job done here with their striking. But it's the grappling numbers that set this fight apart. We've got 93 takedown attempts in the UFC career for Derek Brunson and only 12 for Till. So that tells us a little something about where these guys prefer to fight. Brunson's probably going to be preferring that this fight takes place on the ground, while Till is probably going to prefer to keep it striking at massive range so that he could throw his 4 significant strike attempts per minute and try to land something in 25 minutes. But Till is getting out-controlled by his opponents 13.34% to 7.4%. And Till's opponents are trying a lot more takedown attempts than Till. See, Till tries about 1.2 takedown attempts per fight, while his opponents are trying about 4.1. However, Till is showing excellent takedown defense right here at about 83% in his UFC career. That's very good. However, we have to keep in mind that Darren Till is fighting welterweights, and he's not fighting great wrestlers. Derek Brunson here has got a 29-1 takedown allowed ratio in the UFC. Guys, that's like, dude, I think that's probably almost as good as Kamaru Usman, because Kamaru Usman is 100% takedown defense. So however many career takedown attempts or takedowns Usman has, it's probably close to that number. But he's like 30-0. Brunson's 29-1. Brunson has got 38% control time for, and he's only allowing 2.18, you guys. So for everybody that's out there talking about Darren Till's power and how great he is and how he's going to knock everybody out, don't talk about how great Till's striking is. Don't talk about how great of a sniper he is. And he is. He's a great sniper, without also talking about Derek Brunson's wrestling numbers in the UFC are elite. Elite. There's no other word to describe it, you guys. He's out controlling his opponents at a 19-1 ratio. He's out takedowning his opponents at a 29-1 ratio. This is over an 18-fight sample size, you guys. This is at middleweight, not at welterweight, at middleweight. So we are really going to see that 83% takedown defense of Darren Till get tested on Saturday. And it's going to be tested by one of the most efficient wrestlers that the middleweight division has seen in the UFC, in Derek Brunson. Let's go to the advanced stats, because there's additional numbers that we need to be aware of here, you guys. And that is the takedown numbers for Mr. Brunson since he has come to Sanford MMA. These are the last 4 fights what I have highlighted here. 6 out of 12 against Holland. 4 out of 8 against Shapazian. 2 out of 10 and 4 out of 9 in the Heinisch and Theodorou fights. So this is a guy, if we include right down here 0 for 7 in 1 round against Adesanya, we're going to see a guy who has attempted 7, 9, 10, 8, and 12 takedown attempts in his last 5 fights. So I don't know how long Darren Till is going to be able to stand at distance striking in this fight, because we're seeing a guy who's putting up basically double-digit takedown attempts per fight. He's gotten 6, 4, 2, and 4 in his last 4 fights, and has gotten, as a result of those takedowns, 1,015, 186, 132, and 197 seconds of control on those 16 takedowns. That's over 1,500 seconds of control on 16 takedowns, you guys. About a minute and 40 seconds of control time per takedown. We cannot look at this fight without looking at it through that lens. And then we also look here at Brunson in this 18-fight sample size. Look at all these knockdowns. 5 knockdowns. And he's been knocked down 5 times, but 3 of them were by Israel Adesanya. You know, so if we look at this huge sample size worth of fights and we throw out the middleweight champ Adesanya, in 18 fights, 17 of them now, he's only been knocked down twice if we throw out the Adesanya fight. So, you know what? We're going to have to talk a little bit more about tape and stuff like that, and that's going to be a discussion for another time. But on just the tip, we're looking at the numbers. And the numbers are telling me that this is a very slick spot to be getting Derek Brunson at plus 150. 1.5 to 1 you're getting on your money in a 5-round fight against a guy like Till, who hasn't faced a wrestler of Brunson's caliber. Brunson has shown ever since he's moved to Sanford MMA that he is using that wrestling background of his. He's using it to maximize his win condition, and he's banked 4 straight wins in a row. And I think that when he faces Darren Till on Saturday night, that it's going to be 5. And I want to call attention to one more thing, because I think Brunson gets this job done with his wrestling, and I think his best condition to win this fight is by decision, grinding it out with that wrestling, because Till is too low volume to knock out Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson is plus 500 right now on FanDuel to win this fight by decision. That's one of the juiciest props of the week. And I am going to be taking a very long look at that prop, because 5 to 1 on Brunson to win this fight by decision just seems off. I know there's a lot of people on Darren Till. I know there's a lot of people who love his striking. I think this is going to be a very unique challenge for Darren Till, and I don't think he's seen a wrestler of Derek Brunson's caliber. I think Brunson's going to be able to win minutes and bank rounds with his wrestling, and I am worried about Darren Till's ability to pull the trigger enough to win the stand-up exchanges at a high enough rate in order to beat Derek Brunson on Saturday night. The pick is Derek Brunson by decision. You guys, we made it through all 10 fights. And I wanted to thank each and every one of you for hanging out with me on a Tuesday night this late for just the tip. And I wanted to say thanks for one other thing. I noticed that when I went online today before the show to look at my channel, that I have 496 subscribers to my channel. I am this close to 500 subscribers. And I've done this in probably just around 4 months. And the rise has been meteoric. The fact that I've got 27 people watching me live on a Tuesday night is humbling, and it's incredibly encouraging. And it's very validating for me for all the work that I put in to stream for you guys, to put these stats together for you guys, to do the videos, to put together all the spreadsheets. You guys subscribing to my channel, liking my videos, watching my videos. I just wanted to say that it means a ton to me. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you that has subscribed to my channel, watched my videos, like my videos. You guys, it really means a ton. And to see the channel have this much success in this short a period of time, I find it incredibly humbling, and I have all of you to thank for that. So thank you guys for watching tonight, but we've got one more piece of business to attend to, and that's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. You guys, who should it be? Tell me in the chat. I mean, who's going to shave ass this week? Because I could give you a real easy one. And the easiest one that I could give you is Jack Shore. Okay, that's it seems like a layup. It seems like you guys should demand more of your Uncle Weezy. I should have to give you something a little bit better than that. And, the next easiest one to pick would be Aspinall. But, God, I'm such a Serghei Spivac fan. I don't know what Aspinall looks like going past 2.5, 3 minutes in a high-paced, potentially wrestling-heavy fight. So I'm not picking him. I'm picking a fight, and I am going – see, one of the things that I'm going to have to do now as I pick fights for you guys, as I have my bets tracked, I'm going to have to get a lot more friendly with failure than I'm used to in my life. Hey, if you're not failing, you're not trying, right? Well, I'm trying, and I'm not afraid to fail because I'm going to be here next week, win or lose. I mean, that's evidenced by last week. I got my ass shaved so bad last week on bets. I was 1-5, negative 83% return on investment, down 5.2 units. But I'm back here this week because we cannot be afraid to fail. We got to keep going at it. And I'm picking somebody that's actually an underdog on the money line for my ass shaving of the week. I think Fire Fist Yeon Kim sucks so bad. I think her haircut's terrible. I think her striking's terrible. Her takedown defense is even worse. And I think Molly McCann is going to go 4-3 in the UFC on Saturday night by going to her wrestling early and often. And every time she tries to take down Yeon Kim, Fire Fist is going to fold like a lawn chair. Molly McCann is going to ride out a decision, not unlike Brian Kelleher 2 weeks ago, who was my inaugural Just the Tip ass shaving of the week pick. The pick for this week is the underdog, Molly Meatball McCann, for Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week by decision. Book it. You guys, we got it done in under an hour and a half. Tuesday nights, Just the Tip, an absolute success. 30 of you in here watching. Are you kidding me? I'm so lucky to have all you guys. God bless each and every one of you. God bless for 500 subscribers, for over 600 views on my Just the Tip video last week. I have to thank each and every one of you guys for supporting the channel. It means a ton. I will be back here next week with more content for you guys. You guys have a great night. I enjoy spending Tuesday nights with you guys. I'm going to have a beverage and maybe do a little more research for UFC Vegas 36. You guys take care and have a good night.